Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Is everything okay, like with the audio and the video?
Yeah, now I'm able to hear you and see you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, even I'm audible and visible, right?
I think so.
Perfect. Okay then. So how was your day? How was your day been?
Well, the day has been a little slow. I've just been chilling around, taking a break.
Yeah. Okay, before moving to the actual interview where we will be discussing a lot of things today on digital art as problem solving, I'll tell you how we have divided the interview. So it will be on three different segments. The first segment is gonna be just about you, your experience, and how has been your experience with digital art. And then second, we will talk about questions which are from interns and for interns. So there are questions which interns prefer to ask doodle artists and digital artists, and then we would be taking them up. And at last, we have the third section, which is based on art series. So we are doing the series where we are bringing artists around the world to know about how they are solving problem using their, the art or the hobby that they are pursuing.
Right.
Yeah, then I think let's begin. For our audience, I would love if you could tell us about bit about you. Where are you from, and what do you do? Which hobby are you engaged with?
Right. So my name is Jhalak, and I go by the name Rangeen Siahi on Instagram. I am an illustrator, designer, and a writer. So I'm from Uttarakhand. And I am involved in digital art mainly and some sort of rural art, which is not very professionally doing that, but professionally, like I am a digital artist.
Cool.
This is
And I'm very keen to know why did you put your username as Rangin Shahi?
okay. So actually, when I started my page, this was mostly just out of hobby or just I wanted to put out pictures and some poems, some writings, and so I had a different username back then. But then slowly, I mean, so I used to go by the name called Words Wander Wonder, which kind of more about my, pictures and just words. But I think two and a half years back or something, I realized that I actually didn't like my username that much, and I also started like rekindled my interest in drawing and art, and I wanted to keep something in Hindi. So yeah, so Rangeen se hai, colorful ink.
Yeah. That's lovely. And I see that you have started sharing your journey, and that is why I want to move to the next question, which is like, I would love to know how your journey has been using like digital art and where are you now and where were you? How did it go?
Right. Okay, so as I told that this really wasn't supposed to be a platform where I was sharing my art, and also like since a couple of years I kind of had lost touch with it because of college, school, and everything. And for the past two years, I just started doodling again, and that just happened that probably like around 2018, 2019, I realized that there were a lot of things that were going on politically, socially around, and the environment was becoming very, I mean, it's still very fearful, and the freedom of expression was being curbed. And I am actually back home, so I didn't have a lot of friends or people to talk to or engage with or talk about, what all things are going on because you need somebody to at least vent out, especially everything that's going on socially and politically. So I just randomly, out of frustration, out of not being able to express my opinions, I started drawing. So it just turned out that since 2019, towards the end, when the CAA protest and NRC protests were going on, and that was the time actually when, I got more engaged with digital art as a social tool or a medium for me to express my thoughts because uh, as I said, I was back home and I couldn't really actually join any of the protests, and that is why I just really wanted to do something, engage with the issue from just for my own sake, and so I started putting out digital art for that, and that is how I started realizing that this is something that I really want to do. Plus, this is something that really helps me so emotionally also to just put out the things that I really want to say, but I can't say out loud. So yeah, so it really started around 2019, December and January 2020. So that is when I actually got more engaged into the field of digital art. I really didn't know that, I was going to go in some do something like this, but I realized that this is something that I really enjoy doing, and that's how I started my journey.
That's so great. And while you were sharing, I was thinking like there are a lot of the times where people are choosing different artworks, right? They are drawing, maybe they are making poetries or they're choosing some other way. Like, I want to know why did you choose digital art as a way to express yourself?
So I am actually I used to draw a lot since childhood, but as I said, like I lost touch, and then I was more into writing articles and everything. But then like articles, poetry, but somehow I still found that there's something that's lacking, some tool that I need to express myself, and it just turned out to be art, visual arts and digital art. I didn't really go into thinking so much that I'll be doing this, but maybe it's also about that visual art speaks or requires lesser words, and it transcends languages. Like I really don't need to, say anything. It just I can just put it on a screen and people can maybe engage with it and interpret what they think without words, which is really amazing. I mean, just by images, I can communicate with so many people. So yeah, I mean, it just happened naturally or unorganically that I didn't really go into doing this after thinking or putting any deeper thought, which actually is feels interesting to myself as well because it just happens so naturally and organically that
Absolutely. And I would love if you could share like few illustrations that you created and something about that, like some illustration that you created and some best ones. Maybe you just remember that this is gonna be my best one or something like that.
um okay, I mean actually I think the last 2 3 illustrations that I've done, one was on partial democracy. As you may also know that India has been in two of the studies. In one of the study, it India has actually in the study. I mean, it was about democracy and how India has actually slipped, and it's not really democratic anymore. It's called partly democratic, and another study, I think, by a Swedish institute has called India an electorate autocracy, elective autocracy. So these are the two things that just really hit me because if you think about it, I mean, we are supposed to be world's largest democracy, but it's very frightening to really think that we are not even democratic anymore according to the global standards, and which is to say that uh, what about the freedom of expression? What about we? I mean, we actually got our freedom in 1947 by struggling so much, and now we've lost it so easily, and now we haven't really been talking about it, which is really problematic. And I really wanted to make something on this. So, one of the illustrations is where I have illustrated about what partial democracy means. For example, how people who are actually struggling for the democracy or for fighting for our rights, fighting to keep our democracy intact, have been jailed and have been put have been incarcerated without any evidences. So, I mean, when we talk about democracy, this is how we actually became democratic when people started talking about it, when people struggled, and so many freedom fighters, so many people have lost their lives just to get us become democratic, and now it has been lost. So, so yeah, one of my illustration was about this, where I had drawn the activists who have been wrongly incarcerated on the one side, which says partial, and on the democracy side, it's all the miscreants, all the terrorists, if you can call them, who, actually um, attacked the people and attacked our democracy and who were going free. So this is one the illustration that I did, and yeah, so I think that this is something that I find really powerful. I mean, at least for myself, to just express how scary this is and how the word democracy has changed its meaning. Yeah, so one of those illustrations.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to tell all our audience that if you are, if this is something that is interesting you, and like I am really feeling very interesting, I want to get into this. So you can surely check out Rangeen Shahi, and then you would able to see all the posts. And recently, when I have been following Rangeen Shahi, and I think. A lot of things that I'm not aware of, and whenever those posts are coming, I'm getting into like I'm checking it out and then actually going into more deep, researching it and trying to know more about it. So it's something for you. Then surely go and check out her profile, and you would able to be aware what's happening around. Um, I would love to know, like we are talking about doodle art, like we were talking about doodle art a lot of time, but this time we are talking about digital art. So how is it different from doodle art or maybe any other art?
Okay, so digital art mainly is, as the name suggests, it's done digitally. So it is done on a laptop or a tablet, basically using any electronic device, and it's not drawn by hand. I mean, it could be drawn by hand, but then major part is done digitally. So that is what it's called, digital art. And doodle art, whereas it could be done both digitally as well on paper. Doodle would be something that just randomly comes out of your head, or it's not proper, what do you call it, drawing. It's more about scribbling your ideas. And I mean, firstly, you cannot really define exactly what these mean, or doodle can be something very different also. But my understanding, doodle would be something that is out of randomly being done, and yeah. While digital art would be something that's digitally done. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and that's something really new today. Like I'm gonna take this out, and I'm sure that there would be some interns who would be thinking like digital art is something that they can try out.
Yeah.
We can see lot of people are joining in, and they're saying someone is saying she is a big fan, and by
Yeah.
saying she is resonating with you.
Thank
She is
you.
having ideas, and so much more is coming out. So I want to take this moment and tell people if you have any questions, you can use the feature of questions at the right hand side of corner and ask us. We will be making sure we are taking that. And so there is one question that we will take up. Challenge that you face during this time. Maybe challenge that you're facing today, or maybe challenge that you're facing while digital art journey.
Okay, so there would be two things. Uh, just give me a second, sorry. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there are two questions here. One is what I face, are the challenge that I face during digital art would this is something that digital art may you if you're not very familiar with the idea or if with the technology, then it could be a little challenging, but then you figure out uh, new things and there are different softwares that you can use, which can be helpful. You can start simpler on a simpler device, and but then there are so many YouTube tutorials or courses that you can do which can help you out. This is how I also started. I mean, I am a self-learned or self-taught digital artist with so I would just randomly go on on the internet and try and find different techniques that I can use. See, one of the problem is that since I'm not professionally trained in this, then there are a few things that I need to figure out myself and to figure out what to if I do have an idea, but how do I portray it? So one challenge is that always how am I portraying the idea that is in my head, and would I be able to sort of translate my idea into something what I thought and do it visually. So one of the challenges that's always there. I mean, how do I make something that I'm thinking, and how will the audience react to it? Will they be able to connect to it? Is there something that can be tweaked? Second would be because I'm more into social and political art. So there's always the fear that comes with it because it's actually a very scary world out there, and there's it's just that you don't know what if something strikes bad with somebody, and if somebody thinks that okay, this is very offensive, and they just could say things about you. So yeah, of course, the security and the fear is definitely there. But then that's the whole idea of art. You express and you do things that you're not supposed to do.
Definitely. And yeah, I want to know like what is your upcoming documentary Grace about, and while you were doing this Grace documentary, what were some challenges that you came across?
Okay. So so Grace is a documentary about Dalit activist, a trans Dalit activist, and I had designed posters for them. The documentary is being made by somebody else. His name is Smarak. The person is the director. So this is his idea, and this is a documentary about an actual person, Grace Banu, the trans Dalit activist. It's about her story, her struggle. It has been released over globally. I mean, it went into different art festivals, and it is probably due to be released in movie as well very soon. I'm a little unsure about when it's going to be done. But I was designing programs for them for marketing and digital marketing, basically.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to ask this next question, which is, what were some of the highlights through your whole digital art journey?
Okay, so my journey has been interesting and also something that I wasn't really sure how it's going to go because I had only started this whole journey by myself, myself. But it turned out that last year we did a women's where I illustrated about 7 women that I really thought were powerful or who were inspiring, lives were inspiring, and I did that article. I illustrated and I wrote things about them, and that was published in Youth Ki Awaaz, and that's so. After that, I actually was contacted for design for the documentary, and that was the first time I actually thought, okay, I can probably do this professionally as well. And this was actually after 4 or 5 months of after I began my digital art journey, because so this wasn't something that I was planning to do, but it turned out that it just worked out itself, and then I started receiving more projects, and I started thinking more about it, that what all could be done. And so besides the illustrations that I've put on Instagram, I've also designed logos for clinics outside India, and designed website as well. So this all arena I am discovering, and my journey is still going on, and I've just started. So it's very early to say that, where or what I'll be doing in the future. But this is something that, definitely is something on my head, that I will be continuing with this journey.
Yeah, and while you were, sharing your highlights, I wanted to know, like, what were some of your learnings that you have got till now?
Um, well, one thing is that it you don't really have to be a professional in something that you're doing. You don't have to learn it professionally. You just have to first, I mean, you need to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Right. And for me, it has always been about expression. So I found that, okay, it's definitely okay to do something that, you know, you don't have to be always good at something. You just have to try. And because a lot of times what happens is that um, you look outside and there's such amazing people, such amazing artists who are doing immensely good and well in their professional profession, and then you think that you'll never be able to be as good as them. But then it's okay. You don't have to be them. You have to be yourself, and you have to remind yourself that why are you doing this? Is it for? It really needs to be about yourself first. It definitely comes out of privilege that I am doing this out of privilege and out of um, I mean, I don't have that pressure that I have to maybe earn so much, or I'm not the earning member of my family, so I can experiment things. So definitely this was out of privilege, but then you do need to remind yourself that whatever you're doing, why are you doing this? And if you do have that privilege, then you need to continue, and you need to not be good at something. You just need to do it, and you need to do it for yourself. And then you obviously, if you're doing it professionally, then you just need to keep at it and learn more, practice more. That's always important. And learning from other people is also very important. You need to constantly work on yourself, read more, talk to people. And yeah, I mean, we need to constantly keep changing and keep learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just want to say that thank you to you for sharing that. It just gives a little power to each artist who's watching this live today. And I'm very sure that audience is also feeling the same. Like they're constantly, consistently showing their hearts. And I'm able to see that. Now, yeah, I'll see if there are any questions from the section. We have a question. Sometimes like artists use their art to escape from the world. So is it the same with you? That's the question.
For sure. I mean, I actually have different uh, ways that I cope up with the escaping part, but definitely drawing is one of the things. This is how I even started. I mean, for me, it has always been about taking my mind off the world and just scribbling and doodling. I definitely do that. I mean, when I need an escape, I am just doodling, and it has just been a very constant thing. I mean, even when I was in classes and I'm attending lectures, at the end, like back of my notebook, I would always be scribbling. So that definitely is a very, very important way to escape from the world. And apart from this, I would write sometimes, and music is definitely again another thing that is very important in my life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement when you said that we also sit at the back of the bench, and when we don't have our attention to the classroom, we are just doodling out something or creating something or scrapping on the benches.
Yeah.
I think we have answered this. Huh, there is one more question, which is who is your biggest inspiration?
Oh. Okay, so as I said, I mean, I'm not a professional artist, so I don't really know all those big artists that are there. I'm Da Vinci and whatnot. But one of the artists that really inspires me is this person called who goes by the name Bakery Prasad. His name is Sudesh Gautam, and he's an anti-caste um, artist, and I find his art amazing. I mean, I have learned so much from him, and I've always really look up to him, even if I'm struggling with some idea or something. So he definitely is one of the people who I really look up to. Besides, I mean, all of the artists around me, so that's also good. I really can't take one name. I would Bekir Prasad is definitely one person who I always look up to, but there's so many other artists who just really, really good at what they do and their expressions. One person is huge on my canvas, and she is really good at what she does. Tushar, and there's just so many people who are doing really well, and I always look up to different people for different inspiration.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think we have answered most of the question. And Anurag says your work is really great.
Oh, thank you.
Now
There was
let's
another
move to the yeah,
question,
sorry.
and that's okay. I mean, I was just saying thank you to all the people who've commented.
Yeah. I'll move to the next question, sorry, next segment where we will be talking about the questions which are for and from interns. Um, and then let's begin. The first question is, what are something you hope that you should have known at the beginning of your journey? And what are some tips that you would like to share with our interns?
Okay. Um. Well, I mean, as I said, that I'm still learning and I'm still at the start of my journey. But I would want to share some of the things that really helped me out So one, as I said, is that you need to remind yourself why are you doing this. You need to firstly, I mean, if it's about expression, then you need to do justice to what is your idea and not really fall into the trap of what is expected out of you, which is a very a little difficult, a little tricky thing to do because mm, since I do digital art, so and I put it on social media platforms, so what happens is that there's this some sort of expectation out of you that if you put out something that then somebody wants you to draw something else, or they would just question why are you doing this, or why did you not do this instead, and this is something, or if there is some current issue that is going on, right, and there's always this pressure of making something on it because to gain more followers, to gain more traction or something. But then I always go back to this fact that if I'm making something, if I'm making an art, I really want to engage with it, the issue as well. And I make sure that I just don't really make it out of gaining more likes or gaining more followers, which is again a very tricky thing to do because you're always falling into the trap of not getting more followers, or why are you not getting more likes? I did so much, like I put so much effort, and why am I not getting any returns? But then again, I need to keep reminding myself that I need to, you know, go back to the issues, learn about it, and it's very important to also understand this fact that when I'm doing something, I'm not appropriating, or I'm not doing it just out of um, the fact that I need to gain more followers or something. One thing is definitely you need to remind yourself why are you doing this and not fall into this trap of gaining more followers or making something which is not relatable. Again, I mean, that's my own personal belief.
Truly, I totally agree. Like that I think that happens with most of the people these days that they want quickly those followers, people who could like there and appreciate. Because I totally understand that you have put in a lot of efforts and sometimes you just feel that you need that efforts to be seen by people and you feel that little guilt or something like that in your mind. But it's okay, like it will take a little longer and patience. We have
For sure.
yeah, we have Miraki who is saying, Jhalak, love your art and the issues you choose to highlight. We have Ima for Mohit. Amazing work, Jhalak. So proud of, so proud.
Thank you, Namrata and Mohit. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now I'll move to the next question, which is, what are some of the career options available for digital artists?
Could you repeat that again? Sorry.
What are some career options available for digital artists?
Oh, so digital art is something that's so there are two things. I mean, it's digital art and designing. So designing would contain designing social media posts and graphics and for websites for a lot of. I mean, it's a very actually wide field. And sorry. So you can go into designing, you can go into website designing, you can go into graphic designing. If you are very good at drawing and illustrations, then you could go into book publishing, or drawing for books and children's books, or illustrating for books. You can also, so there are a lot of, I mean, since we are moving so much into social media, so you can design illustrations for posts and I mean social media or websites, or yeah, I mean there's a very broad avenue out here. You can go into animation, you can work in movies. You can, there are a lot of actually things that you can move into.
Exactly. And with that, I would like to ask you the next question. Like this sometimes happens that there are artists, like young artists, who have just started making their art, but they also wanted people to see, and they're not aware of the platforms where they can maybe showcase their artwork. So I would love if you could share us some platforms that you might have came across, or you can share with our interns who can share their artifact over there.
Okay, so there are places like Behance and Dribble where you can post your work. So it's basically like a like an online portfolio. So you can put your posts, designs, illustrations, or anything that you've done digitally, and you can connect with people who are themselves artists or people who are looking for hiring. So these require you to log in and make an ID, and I think both of them, they also have subscription models or some models like that, which give you services then which let you then talk to more people, let them see your art. So those are the two places that you can definitely check out, Dribble and Behance. And then again, then you have social media like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, where you can display. Like I mainly work on Instagram. I sort of engage very less with Twitter, and then quite less with on Facebook. I found Instagram to be better for myself, like because I'm also still figuring out a lot of things.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And Avinash is saying, like abiding in your purpose, lovely. Like you shared it previously, that why is very important and the
So,
purpose of doing.
yeah.
We have a question. Uh, People think digital art is easy and cheap, and artists aren't paid much. How challenging is this for you?
Mhm. Okay, it's a very challenging question. Firstly, because I really struggle in asking for money in whatever I do. Uh, Second is the imposter syndrome that, maybe you're not really that good. There's so many good artists out there. Why would people want to pay for your art? So that's the second question that I usually struggle with. And the third question is that in general, people just think that art is something that, just happens by itself and is not really worthy of the money, which is very problematic. I mean, because you always go back to art, you always, in your free time, you're just engaging with art in various forms, and but you still don't really want to pay for it. While people really don't understand that it takes um, effort, it takes time, it takes the idea. I This is what an artist is doing. So you really need to um, accept and understand where the artist is coming from and think about the kind of amount of effort that goes into just pay. Please pay artists. Please effort in things that they're doing. Thank you for that question, Travel Addict.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we are done with most of the questions for the section. Thank you so much, everybody, for asking questions. You can again use a feature and ask more questions. We are moving to the next and the last segment of question, which is based on the series that we are doing, which is Artists as Problem Solvers. So here's my first question. Share with us how you are solving problems using digital art.
Right. So yeah, again, like I will repeat myself that Art is not about solving problems for me. Art has always been about expressing myself. And this medium of expression that is given. And I use it to, I started doing it out of my own requirement or my own need. Or I really wanted to do something like that. It turned out that people were really engaged with my art. And this is when I realized that how important is art in as a tool of communication as well. So I think that art firstly gives you the a tool to express what you think, and it's also it always shows the reality. It always holds up mirror to the reality. So it's more about art reflecting what the problem is. To for me, I mean, if I think there's some problem or if there's some issue that I really want to talk about, so I put it out there, and I want people to acknowledge that this is a problem, or I want to acknowledge firstly myself that this is a problem, and the solution then comes next, or it comes after two, three steps. First thing is to acknowledge that this is a problem, and um, these are the facts about it, and what can we do about it? Can we do something about it? Or maybe I just put it out there so that people resonate with it, even if there is no solution to it, but putting it out there, acknowledging it, and having that sort of communication is important. Um, Art solving problems, I mean, definitely there are amazing artists who have done so many things and have probably solved some kind of problems, but then it's important to not put that pressure on art also. I believe that it needs to breathe and it let the person, whoever is chosen to do some form of art, not always be about solving something or having an extra additional value to it. Art can just be about expressing or could be about venting out. So it might not solve voice problem, but it might solve your problem or currently what you're going through.
Yeah, and I really love this too, this line particularly when you said that art is something that is mirroring the reality around you, and I just love it. Like it's very true that we sometimes go to art to see and resonate, and sometimes we feel it's the same that's happening with me, so it's just mirroring that. So yeah, we have a question. We'll take that up before moving to the next question. Do you feel success pressure?
Yeah, it that pressure is always there. That pressure to prove yourself. That pressure um, to live up to the expectations of different people and of yourself. So it's very important to again remind yourself, relieve yourself of that pressure. Sometimes it gets to you. Sometimes you need to remind yourself the purpose of the art, that it's to just relieve yourself of the pressure that you're actually facing in the real world, and just you need to use art to maybe vent out what you're going through and to relieve that pressure itself.
Cool. Uh, Thank you so much for asking that question, Vibhas. Yeah. We will move to the next question, which is what are your thoughts on world problems addressed through art and different various forms of arts?
um, so again, as I said, that art is a reality to the is a mirror to the it holds mirror to the reality. So it if you find movies, you find songs that just help you get through so much, and a lot of times it gives you that sense of purpose. It gives you that sense of belonging that you require. Um, and art is such a medium that could connect with so many people at a certain time. It's not limited. For example, I mean, if a movie is made somewhere in France or Europe or maybe India, but it doesn't mean that it is only restricted to that audience. It will go, it will travel. For example, Hum Dekhenge was written by Faiz at what time? I mean, and it still resonates with us. And so many of us really go back to Iqbal Banu and Faiz for inspiration, for just trying to understand that situations were bad then also, and we're living through the same times, and we can come out of it. Or this, I mean, art just gives you that sense of purpose and belongingness.
Exactly. And like, do you consider problem solving an essential skill for digital artists?
I think problem solving in itself is important for whatever we do, right? I mean, in our life, how this is a critical skill to just to navigate through life as well. So it definitely problem solving again. It's not necessary that art would provide you a solution to your problem, but it does provide you the medium to communicate, to talk about. If there's a problem, give you an idea how to cope up with it. So I'm not really sure about the problem solving part, or I mean, I really can't come up with an example, but it's just that these are the skills necessary for you to navigate through life. I mean, you need to have a critical perspective for whatever is going on. You need to read more about things to understand if there's a problem, and then first you acknowledge and then you move on to the solution, right? So it doesn't give you the solution to it. It would definitely provide you that medium to understand or to connect with your own self.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And here we have Mohit was sharing one of your posts, which is uh, just loved your series Women Day series, and he has given us the link. Is it that the same post which is where all the women are standing, and I think Mamta Banerjee is standing in between? Is it that post?
I'm I'm not really sure which post is this one. But the post that you're talking about, this is an illustration that I've created for another organization called Behan Box, and they are doing a campaign about women's like the political women and women in politics. And since the elections are going on, so they're covering elections through a gender lens. And so this is an illustration that I've created for them, and it basically encapsulates the movements that have been there by women, and it's how any movement, for example, the farmer movement, and so many women farmers who have been there since the beginning, and how those movements are also political and need to be seen in that lens. So that art that you're particularly talking about, it tries to encapsulate that movements are political and women need to have more representation in power, in politics, in education, and yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. We have a question from Avinash. According to you, how important is the expectation that artists' creation should be ethical?
Oh, uh, okay. It's very important. I mean, it's a famous dialogue from Spider-Man, right? That with great power comes great responsibility. And I really believe that if you are a person who is an artist, or if you have the privilege, if you have the power that people listen to you, you need to really take responsibility of whatever you're doing. You need to be ethical. You need to understand that whatever you're doing is not harming somebody or is not really making somebody else feel bad or is not taking advantage of somebody. So it is very, very important to engage with your own self while you're doing it at, and you need to constantly ask this question that I hope that it's not unfair, or if I hope it's, I'm doing it with a certain responsibility towards society, towards fellow citizens.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Avinash, for asking that question. We have the next question, which is from Mohit. Jhalak, your thoughts on content being under scrutiny on social media if it's against the government, especially if it's against the government.
Thank you, Mohit, for that question. I mean, I recently made this art, which is about this particularly. It is about being under scrutiny by the government, and it is titled "Make 1984 Fiction Again." So 1984 is actually a book by George Orwell, which talks about surveillance, public surveillance, and a dystopian world where government has taken over your thoughts. And I see that parallel being uh, done in, I mean, the current state that we live, where people are, where the government is constantly scrutinizing you, constantly stopping you from speaking against whatever things are going on, and whatever policies that have been implemented by them, which are really unfair to the public, and just, I mean, jailing artists, jailing comedians only for speaking out or only for thinking is immensely problematic. And there's always this question that I keep going back to, that I really feel so strongly about it, but what about my security? And that's always a struggle. And we really constantly need to talk about this, constantly need to talk about the surveillance. That's absolutely.
Yeah, and I thank Mohit for asking this question. Like we were able to discuss this. We have Rishi Bhaiya who was saying, I wish I co-hosted uh, this with your Bishop Politics, Ben Box, Faiz Ahmed.
Thank you. We should definitely connect with it.
Yeah. There's so many things that I'm gonna surely take today, and I'm sure people are gonna take. For example, being very clear with why are you doing it, and then second, mirroring, like it's art is about mirroring the reality, and there is much more on my list right now that I'm gonna take away. So I thank you so much for coming, and I just want to give this moment to you. If there is anything that you want to share, any thoughts like that you felt like you wanted to share, but you're not able to do it with any question, maybe you want to share.
Well, firstly, I would really like to thank you and thank pencilbricks for having me here. Uh, I'm really just starting out with my journey, and I am also learning constantly. So it's really great that I could help out people, but I really think that I am also learning, and I also need to constantly relearn my own thoughts. And I mean, I really don't have more to say to this, but yeah, I really want to thank everybody who's been here. And yeah, just
That's so beautiful, and we thank you for joining us in this whole season of Artist as Problem Solver and coming here and sharing all your learnings from your experience. And this will help us and help our new interns who would be joining us to to start their journey and like, just have those learnings, they can incorporate them in their life also. So thank you so much for joining us in.
Thank you.
I would be sharing